Good morning, students. Last class, we studied about rate and rhythm, and today we will discuss about the axis. Before I discuss about this class, just we will recapitulate what we studied in the last class. Okay. So, roll number 24. You unmute yourself. Can you hear me? Roll number 24.
Yes, sir.
Now tell me how we determine the rate. What methods we discussed last class?
The 300 rule, 1500 rule, and 10-second rule, sir.
Rule of 300,
Rule
1500.
of 1500 and the 10-second rule.
Okay. So why from where this 1500 and 300 has come? You know?
We'll count the squares of the ECG graph.
We will count the
Squares.
squares. So if it is small squares, then how much you will take? See, this basically depends on how many small squares are seen in 1 minute. So when the paper speed is at 25 seconds, 25 millimeter per second, that means if it is small squares in 1 minute, it will be around 1500 small squares. So that's why we take if 1500 by small squares between your RR interval. When it is large squares, then we take it as 300. Okay, 300 divided by large squares. Why this 10 second is taken? You are there?
Yes, sir. If the heart rate is irregular.
No, why we are taking 10 seconds? So how will you count in the ECG whether it is 10 second or how much? How will you know?
No.
64. Unmute. 64. You are there? Or you are logged in and gone? 64.
Yes, sir.
Now, why we have taken 10 seconds? We can take 20 seconds also. We can take 5 seconds also. Why this 10 second is taken? See, in A4, the rhythm strip indicates 10 seconds. Okay? So that's why we take 10 seconds. Okay. Anyway, so we will go back to today's topic and let us see. So today we will be discussing about the axis. So today our learning objective is basically how to determine the axis, QRS axis, mainly QRS axis of an ECG. So similar to QRS axis, there are P wave axis, then your T wave axis also. But in this class, we will basically mainly concentrate on how to determine the QRS axis. Okay. There are many methods, but we will basically discuss about two methods. One is your quadrant approach method, and the second one is isoelectric approach method. So these are the two methods which we will be discussing. So before we start about this axis, we must know what do you mean by axis. What is this axis means? Now you can see here the heart, the ventricular mass, the right ventricular mass and the left ventricular mass, and with these small arrows you can see the vector. So what is this axis means? Axis refers to the direction of the movement of depolarization which spreads throughout the heart to stimulate the myocardium to contract. That means the axis is a vector, summation of vectors. So the main vector, mean of these number of vectors, you can see here number of vectors are there. So the mean vector, direction of the mean vector is known as your axis. Now normally what happens? See in this diagram you can see the right side, then left side, and the heart is at the central. So the mean vector is downwards and to the patient's left side. So this is usually the normal mean QRS axis. So when we plot it in X and Y axis, then you can see the 0 is the, on the left side it is plus, downwards it is plus 30, plus 60, plus 90. So if we take this sphere, we can see above the horizontal axis, that is lead 1, we will see that above that lead 1 all is negative and below that is positive. So plus 30, plus 60, plus 90, 120, plus 150, plus 180. Then it again goes in the minus direction, minus 150, minus 120. So in this way. So what is this axis? Axis is determined mainly in the X-axial system. So this is what we discussed in the first class. What is X-axial system? So this is what, now we'll just in reference to the heart, you see the mean QRS vector is diagonally and it is downwards towards the foot of the patient. So the axis is mean QRS vector when given in degrees, and the normal axis ranges to 0 to 90 degree in the frontal plane. So this green part is the normal axis. So this is your, so if we divide this sphere into 4 quadrants, then this is the left lower quadrant. This one is your right lower quadrant. This one is 92 plus 180 is right upper quadrant, and this side is left upper quadrant. So this is, so this quadrant approach we will now discuss. Now let us assume this is a patient. To determine the direction of vector, we have to visualize a sphere surrounding the heart. And at the center of this heart, now this is the heart area of the heart, then the AV node is at the center of the heart. And when we visualize the sphere, that sphere, the center of that sphere is the AV node, and that AV node is the center of our vector. Now with the sphere in mind, consider lead 1 as the left arm. So the left arm, I showed you that on the left side it is positive, of the lead 1 is positive, and right arm is having negative electrode. Now this is the lead 1 direction which is going through the AV node. So at the center it is the AV node. On the right side it is negatively charged, and on the right side, on the patient's left side it is positive, and on the patient's right side it is negative. So what you have to remember is lead 1 passes through the center of the sphere, which is the AV node. So keeping that in mind, for lead 1, patient's left hand side is the sphere is yellow in color here, depicted as yellow in color, and this is positively charged, whereas the right half, which is colored light pink color, so this is your negatively charged. So this is for in case of your lead 1. And at the center, you can see this is AV node. Okay. So right side of the sphere is negatively charged and left side of the sphere is positively charged. Now, let us consider this as a myocardium. So as the positive wave of depolarization within the myocardial cell moves towards a positive electrode, let us think that this is a skin electrode which is directed towards this myocardium. So you see here number of your depolarizations are there. So the summation of this will be captured by this skin electrode and there will be a deflection. Now this deflection is towards the your skin electrode if it is more. If it is less, then away from the negative, then summation is negative, then it will be away from the skin electrode. So in this case, you can see the positives are more than the negative. So it is directed towards the skin electrode. So in this case, what will happen now? So you will find on ECG, a positive wave is being recorded. So whenever there is the deflection, depolarization is towards the electrode, a positive wave is recorded, and whenever there is negative depolarization, then that is recorded as negative wave. Now let us consider this hexaxial system again. You can see the horizontal one is lead 1, and you can see at 30 degrees to the AVF is your lead 2 and lead 3. So lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. In the last class we discussed as this to be inferior leads and AVL and lead 1 as your lateral leads. Now the positive electrode used to record the inferior limb leads 2, 3 and AVF is on the left foot. See the positive inferior 1, 2, 3 AVF, this is on the left foot, whereas the positive electrode that is used to record the lateral limb leads 1 and AVL is on the left arm of the patient. So this is left arm. Now in case of lead 1, which we have discussed, if the QRS is positive, mainly upright in lead 1, the mean QRS vector is pointing somewhere into the patient's left half. So in lead 1, if the QRS is positive, then that will be somewhere here. So in this sphere, you can see the positive is on the left side of the patient. So now you see the QRS complex is here, the QRS is here in lead 1, so this is positive. So this side it is there. That means the mean QRS vector will be somewhere on this. So this can move this way or this way. So normally it will be in this area. So if some abnormality is there, then it may go beyond this area. Still it will be positive, but this can go this way also. Now still we are considering this lead 1. Now suppose in the ECG, the QRS is mainly negative. So earlier we considered this ECG as positive. Now this is negative, lead 1. Negative means which side it will be? vector should point to the patient's right side. Earlier it was here. When the QRS was positive, that was in the yellow zone. Now the QRS is negative, so it will be in the pink zone. So this is how the mean vectors is determined. Now suppose if the QRS is negative in lead 1, then what will happen? If the QRS is negative, so in which direction? This direction it is pointed out. So this one earlier I said normally in the left lower quadrant is the normal mean QRS vector lies normally. So now it is on the other side, right lower quadrant. So what will it indicate? So this indicates your right axis deviation. That means whenever the QRS is negative in lead 1, it indicates right axis deviation. Okay. So in lead 1, if QRS is positive, that may be either normal or abnormal. But if the QRS is negative in lead 1, it always indicates your right axis deviation. So this right axis deviation may in some cases extreme right axis deviation. Now, what we till now we studied in lead 1, by simple observation we can say that whether the mean QRS vector is pointing towards your right side or pointing towards the left side of the patient. So that depends on whether the QRS is negative or QRS is positive. If the QRS is negative, that indicates that points towards the patient's left side, and if the patient's right side, and if the QRS is positive, that points towards the left side of the patient. Okay, so this gives us a positive, that gives either normal or left axis deviation, or if it is negative, then it will be right axis deviation. So whenever QRS negative in lead 1, always remember this is right axis deviation. Now let us see the lead AVF. The left foot has a positive electrode in lead AVF. So in this case, we again, as in case of lead 1, we will imagine a sphere around the patient for lead AVF. So the foot is positively charged in case of your AVF, and the head portion, the upper portion is charged negative. Now let us imagine the sphere here. That means the above is negatively charged and the downwards is positively charged. Now we'll imagine for AVF, the lower half of the sphere is positive and the upper half is negative. So considering lead AVF, if the QRS is mainly positive on the tracing, then the mean QRS vector points downwards into the positive half of the sphere, that is towards the positive lead AVF electrode, that means towards the leg. So this is the QRS. In lead AVF, it is positive. So the mean QRS direction will be which side? It is towards the foot. Now, see, please don't get confused just because the positive QRS is upright, yet the vector points downwards. So this is a common mistake. So even if it is positive upright, it can go downwards. You must remember that the vector points into the positive half of the sphere, that is towards the positive left foot electrode when the QRS is positive. The lower half of the sphere just happens to be positive half in lead AVF. So in lead AVF, the lower half is positive and upper half of the sphere is negative. Now, if the QRS in lid AVF is negative, what will happen? In that case, the mean QRS will be directed towards upward, mostly on the right upper or left upper quadrant. Now, if the QRS is positive in lid 1 and also positive in AVF, the vector points downwards and to the patient's left. This is the normal axis range. Now you see in the lid 1, QRS is positive, this half is positive, and in lid AVR, this portion is positive. So when we combine these together, that means both are in lid 1 positive and lid AVR QRS is positive. Then what will happen? Then you will see that this is the area which is common to both yellow plus blue. So it is the green. So this is the normal area. So the axis is normal. So what does it mean? If the QRS in lid 1 is positive and QRS in lid AVR is positive, then the QRS axis is normal, and this is between your 0 to plus 90. So it can be within any of these areas. So QRS, you have to look into the ECG lid 1 and ECG lid AVR, and if both the QRS complexes in both lid 1 and AVR is positive, that means the patient is having QRS normal. Now, since the ventricles angle downwards to the left and ventricular depolarization moves downward and leftward, it should not surprise you that this is not the range of the vector. Okay. Now, so what we studied till now, the left lower quadrant is normal range. Then your whole of the right side of the patient is right axis deviation, and left axis deviation is the left upper quadrant. Okay. So in the frontal plane, there are 4 possible axis quadrants where the mean QRS vector may point. Visualize this large circle on the patient's chest in the frontal plane. So this is the frontal plane which you have to remember. See, the right axis deviation, this half, a little later we will again divide into upper quadrant and lower quadrant. So that till that time you think whole of this as right axis deviation. Now, here, this is the normal range, normal quadrant, normal axis lies within this quadrant. Now, this is downwards to the left of the patient, and this is the left axis deviation is upward to the left of the patient. Then this is the downward quadrant on the right side of the patient, downward to the right, and this is upward to the right. There are some spellings are missing here. Now, if the QRS is positive in lid 1, so earlier we discussed QRS is positive in both lid 1 and AVF. Now, if the QRS is positive in lid 1 and negative in AVF, then what will happen? So, in this one, in lid 1, the left half is positive and the right half is negative. Now, let us see in lid AVR. So, in this lid AVR, the QRS is negative. That means the upper sphere is negative and the lower one is your positive. So, in that case, where this will go? The mean vector, mean axis. So, what will happen to this one? Now, you see, where it will go? The vector will be somewhere here. That means it will go towards this. So this is your left axis deviation. So earlier it was, you see, this was positive and this was positive. So it was here. But when QRS in lead 1 was positive and QRS in lead AVR was negative, AVF, sorry, it is not AVR, it is AVF. Then it is the vector is somewhere here. Now, by looking at the QRS complex in lead 1 and AVF, we can locate the mean QRS vector in an axis quadrant. So let us think this is as the heart. So if lead 1 is positive, QRS in lead 1 is positive and QRS in AVF is positive, then the mean vector will be in the patient's left lower quadrant. So that is your normal. Now if the QRS in lead 1 is positive and QRS in AVF is negative, then it will be your left axis deviation, and this is in the upper half of the left quadrant. Now, if the lead 1 is negative and AVF is positive, earlier lead 1 was positive and now AVF is positive, lead 1 is negative. So, in that case, the mean QRS vector will be in the lower right half. So this is known as right axis deviation. Now, if lead 1 is negative, AVF is negative, then this axis will be in the right upper quadrant. So this is known as extreme right axis deviation. So this is all about your quadrant approach. That means you have 4 quadrants. One quadrant is your normal quadrant, one quadrant is for left axis deviation, one quadrant for right axis deviation, and the remaining one is for extreme right axis deviation. So based on this, you can calculate the vector for a portion of QRS complex, for instance, the initial or terminal 0.04 seconds in exactly the same manner as for mean QRS vector. So this is a little bit calculation has to be done. For the time being, I'm not discussing on that part. Now, when depolarization moves in a direction perpendicular to the orientation of a lid, the deflection is minimal and or isoelectric. That means an isoelectric QRS records equal magnitudes of upward and downward deflection. Okay, what does it mean? Let us see lead 1, and what happens? This is depolarization moving horizontally. So this, against this, if you see perpendicular to this, the depolarization is on this side. So how this will be recorded? So this is recorded as equiphasic, isoelectric. So this is the positive one part is equal to the negative part. So in lead 1, if the depolarization is at its perpendicular, then there will be positive and negative deflections, and both these deflections will be of equal magnitude. So this sort of QRS complex where the R is equal to your S, this is known as your isoelectric QRS. Now what we are going to do? So in this, you have to first locate the mean QRS vector in an axis quadrant, that is normal left axis deviation quadrant or right axis deviation or extreme right axis deviation quadrant. Then what you will do? Then find the limit in which the QRS is most isoelectric, so you can more precisely locate the vector in degrees. And the axis is about 90 degrees from the orientation of the most isoelectric lead. So this is what these things. So first you have to locate the vector in an axis quadrant. Then you find the most isoelectric lead, and to the 90 degrees from that lead is your, from the isoelectric lead is the axis. Now let us see. Now this is left axis deviation. This is the right, left upper quadrant. So this is patient's left upper quadrant. So here you have 3 more divisions. So this is 0 degree, then this is your minus 30, minus 60 and minus 90. Now let us think about left axis deviation, and the most isoelectric lead is suppose QRS complex in the here isoelectric is lead 1, then the axis is minus 90 degrees. See, if it is here the isoelectric axis is this one, then the axis will be minus 90. Now if the in lead AVR, if you find isoelectric complex, then the axis is minus 60. If you find isoelectric complex in lead 2, then you will find minus 30 as the axis. And if it is AVF, then the axis is 0 degree. So this is left axis deviation. Now let us see in the lower quadrant what happens. So this is usually your 0 degree, 30 degree, 60 degree and 90 degree. So here your normal range. So most isoelectric lead is seen in AVF, then the axis is 0 degree. If the isoelectric complex is seen in lead 3, then the axis is 30. Similarly, if AVL, then 60 degree. If lead 1, then it is 90 degree. So now let us review. First, locate the appropriate axis quadrant. Then, to determine the exit position of the vector, find the lead where the QRS is most isoelectric. So here, remember, you have to be very, you should know the hex axial reference system. If you do not know the hex axial reference system, then this isoelectric concept you will not able to understand. Now, usually, lead 1 is perpendicular to your lead AVF and lead 2 to your AVL. So that you have to remember. Now, the exact position of the vector can be located in similar way for the right axis deviation and extreme right axis deviation. So here you see, if the isoelectric is in the upper quadrant and isoelectric complex is seen in 1, then it is minus 90. If AVL, then it is minus 120. If it is 3, then minus 150. If it is 1 AVF, then minus 180. See, this you do not have to remember, what you call memorize. Just if you do it 1 or 2 ECGs, then you can remember the things. Now for right axis deviation in the lowermost right quadrant. So if it is in AVF, it is plus 180, 2, then plus 150. Similarly, AVR, then 120, 1 plus 90. So similar to QRS vector, there will be one P vector again. So the mean QRS vector, which represents normal biventricular depolarization, points downwards and to the patient's left. Similarly, the P wave vector, which represents your normal biatrial depolarization, points downward to the left side of the axis of the patient. So both mean P vector as well as mean QRS vector is pointing towards your downward and towards the left side of the patient. So for P wave vector, the P wave points generally downward and towards the positive electrode on the patient's left foot. That means inferior leads will show positive deflection 2, 3 AVF. So the P waves are usually upright in those leads. That means in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. Similarly, it also points leftward towards the positive electrodes on the patient's left arm. That means lead 1 and AVL. So the P wave produces generally, the P vector produces generally upright P waves in lead 1 and AVL. That means if we combine these together, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, AVF and AVL, in all these leads, you will get upright P wave, except for AVR. So in which you will get a negative P wave. So this is, you have to remember. In all frontal leads, you will get P wave upright except for AVR. So if we see an inverted P wave in any of those leads, it is probably a P dash depolarizing upwards from a low atrial focus or retrograde atrial depolarization moving upwards from the AV node. So this is what you have to remember. Whenever you see a P wave, negative P wave in lead 2 or lead 3, you should always think that an ectopic focus is there, which is lying lower in the atrial chamber. Now let us see how these chest leads are seen in horizontal plane. That means till now we were discussing about lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, AVR, AVL and AVR. Let us see in a horizontal plane. Now again, the sphere has 3 dimensions, so it is important to note the general position of mean QRS vectors in the horizontal plane as well. Again, we will think of the sphere. So the V1, V2, V3, V4, V5 and V6, these are arranged in this way. Now let us see, the patient is like this and this sphere is in this way, arranged in this fashion. Now to determine changes of the mean QRS vector in the horizontal plane, we usually examine the chest leads. Now the axis may deviate in the frontal plane. The vector is set to rotate in horizontal plane. See, axis deviation is, when we say axis deviation, it is always the frontal leads. That means lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, AVR, AVL and AVF. But when we say the vector is rotated, that means we are looking for this rotation in chest leads. That is V1, V2, V3, V4, V5 and V6. So now we have to look for whether the chest electrode used for recording lead V2 is always positive or negative. Let us see. Now this is the lead V2, V1, which is attached at the chest. Now to look for V2, let us again consider the sphere. So considering the sphere for lead V2, we can see that the front half is positive and the back half is negative. Okay. So here the front half is positive and back half is negative. So considering a lead V2 sphere, we view the patient from the side. That means we are looking at the patient from the side of the patient. the center of the sphere is still the AV node. So here, somewhere here, the center is at the AV node. Now this is, normally the QRS in lid V2 is negative. Therefore, the mean QRS vector points backwards because of the generally posterior position of the thick left ventricle. That means in this way. So, if it is positive, V2 QRS is positive, then it will be pointed in this direction. But in lid V2, QRS is normally negative. So, the mean QRS vector is your backwards. So, what does it mean? Normally, most of the ventricular depolarization moves away from the positive V2 electrodes towards the thicker and more posteriorly positioned left ventricle. That means you see, this is the posterior wall and this is the interior wall. This is your right ventricle. Now, the lid is kept here, V2. So, the orientation of chest lid V2 makes it the most informative lid for the determination of both interior and posterior infarcts. So, both ventricular depolarization and repolarization should be scrutinized in the right chest leads because they reveal subtle vector changes caused by both interior and posterior infarcts of the left ventricle. So let us see what is the gradual transition of the QRS complexes. In the chest leads, there is a gradual transition from the generally negative QRS in V1 to the generally positive QRS in V6. See, in V2, as I said, most of the time it will be the V2 is negative, so the QRS is backwards. Okay. Now, let us see the horizontal axis rotation, left or right in the horizontal plane. Now, this is, we have, because one normal and we have left side rotation or right side rotation. So, there are two marks here. Now, rotation of the vector in the horizontal plane is described from the patient's point of view as rightward or leftward from the normal range. That means this is the normal is at the V3 or V4. So, usually we find the isoelectric complexes, that means positive or negative, equal positive and negative are seen either in the V3 or V4. So, if more negative is seen, then it is towards your rightward. That means you will see V1 or V2. If we see more positive QRS complex, then it is leftward. That is, in the V5 and V6, you will find QRS more positive. So, remember, axis deviation is seen in the frontal plane, whereas axis rotation is seen in the horizontal plane. So, to end this, so this all these axis deviation, to remember in a nutshell, in a how to remember this? So, there is a way to remember this. Left leaves. So, you look at lead 1 and lead 3. So, if the QRS is complexes are leaving from each other, so that is your left axis deviation. Right reaches, that means QRS axis in your lead 1 and lead 3. That means in lead 1 it is negative and lead 3 it is positive. So, right reaches, that means that is your right axis deviation. So, this finishes our axis. So, there are, so we covered two methods. One is your quadrant approach and the second one was isoelectric approach. There are more complicated ways are there which needs your what you call compass box, so measure the angle. So that approach we are not going to discuss. So in the examination, usually what you get is ECG, and immediately you will be asked to tell whether the axis is right axis or left axis. So for that, what you will do, you will look at the lead 1 and lead 2 or lead 3, and you see whether there is QRSs are approaching each other or deviating from each other. So if it is left axis deviation, then you will find the QRS in lead 1 is positive and lead 3 is negative. If it is right axis deviation, then you will find in the lead 1 it is negative and lead 3 it is positive. Okay. So if you have any questions, then you can ask me. So you can mute yourself and ask me the questions. Roll number 87. 87, unmute yourself. 87, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So, understood or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sure. So, rate, rhythm, and axis. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So, these things, when you join the classes and then can show some ECGs, and based on that ECGs, we can again revise these things. So, at that time, you can understand much better. Anyone who is having any queries, anything? Roll number 9. Unmute.
Yes, sir.
So, what is the normal axis?
Sir, in the left lower quadrant.
See, it is left lower quadrant, and also minus up to minus 30 degree in the left upper quadrant. Minus 30 to your plus 90 is the normal axis. Okay. So anywhere in this is known as your normal axis. See, usually we do not you just, if you know whether it is left axis deviation or right axis deviation, that is sufficient for you at this juncture. But you must know what is the how this is calculated. That's why I have taken a single class for this. Otherwise, it is very easy. We can finish it in 10 minutes time and say that this is whether this is your right axis deviation or left axis deviation. But how this process has been done, that is what I have discussed. Okay?
Yes.
So, anyone else? No questions? See, the Enthoven's law, if you know the Enthoven's law, what it says, voltage in lead 1, and somebody has asked me a question here. See, the Enthoven's law, what does it say? Enthoven law says that lead voltage in lead 1 and lead 3 is equal to lead 2. So based on that only the direction will be deduced. It is not how these are shown. Okay. Any more? No. If there are no more questions, then we'll close the class. So in the next class, we'll discuss about the chamber enlargement and findings in acute coronary syndrome. Okay, thank you.